सो हेलो फ्रेंड्स, 110 आवर का चैलेंज है। टाइमर भी चल रहा है, टाइमर अभी चलाने जा रहे हैं। पानी का गिलास रखा है, माइक वाइक सब है, बुक्स रखी है 2 बिहाइव की। ठीक है, तो पहले आप ये देख लीजिए। जैसे रीडिंग स्टार्ट होगी तो सेट कर दूंगा। एक बुक, ये दूसरी बुक। ठीक है, गिलास से अब स्टार्ट करता हूँ। ठीक है, तो स्टार्ट अभी करने जा रहा हूँ। सो स्टार्ट इट। पहले कौन सी बुक लिए? पहले हम लोग मूवमेंट लेते हैं, मूवमेंट्स। ठीक है, पहले हम लोग मूवमेंट्स लेते हैं, बिहाइव की बाद में लेंगे। तो पहले मूवमेंट्स के स्टार्ट करते हैं। तो लेट स्टार्ट इट। टाइमर हम लोगों ने सेट कर दिया। स्टार्ट। द लॉस्ट चाइल्ड। इट वॉज द फेस्टिवल ऑफ स्प्रिंग फ्रॉम द विंट्री शेड ऑफ नैरो lane and alley amongst a granite-clad humanity. Some walked, some rode on horse, others sat, bring carried in bamboo and bull carts. One little boy ran between his father's legs, driving over with life and laughter. Come, child, come, called his parents as he lashed behind. Fascinated by the toys in the shops that linked the way. that linked the way. Called his parents as the land behind, fascinated by the toys in the shops that linked the way. He hurried towards his parents, his feet obedient to their call, his eyes sting, leaning on the receding toys as he come to where they had stopped to wait for him. He could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well know the old cold stare of refusal in their eyes. I want that toy, he pleaded. His father looked at him, red-eyed, in his familiar Trent's way. His mother melted. His mother melted by the free spirit of the day. Was tender and giving him her finger to hold. Said, "Look, child, what is before you?" It was a flowering mustard field, plain like melting gold, as it swept across mills and mills of Avonland. A group of flies, ever bustling about on their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flight of a lone black bee or butterfly in search of sweetness from the flower. The child flowed them. In the air with the grace, till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch butterflies, the flower, the The child floated him in the air with his grace till one of them would still its wings, and rest of he would try to catch it, but it would go flapping up into the air when he had almost caught it in his hand. Then his mother gave a call. Come, child, come on to the footpath. He ran towards his father, parents, grandly and walked abreast of there for a while. Being, however, some left behind, attacked by the little insects and the worms along the footpath that were teeming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. Come, child, come. His father called from the shade of the grove where they had seated themselves on the edges of the well. He ran. He ran towards his father grimly and walked absurd to them for a while, being, however, soon left behind. Attacked by the little insects and the worm along the footpath, that were teeming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. Come, child, come. His parents called from the shade of a grove wherever they had seated themselves on the edges of a well. He ran towards him. A shower of young flower fell upon the child. As he entered the grove and forgetting his parents, he began to rather the rainy petal to his hand. And soon left behind, attacked by the insects. The edges, he ran towards them. A shower of young flower fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to rather and raining petal in his hand. But lo, he heard the cooling of those doves and ran towards his parents, shutting the drove. The running petal dropped from him. Forgotten hands. Come, child, come. They called to the child, who had now gone, running in wild capers round the banana tree and gathering him up. They looked the narrow winding footpath which lead to the hair through the mustard field. As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of thorns. Covered to the welfare. of the hair and felt at the once. Fell the thumbs cavernous to the wellful. The wellful of the hair and the felt at once, replied and fascinated by the confluence of the world. And, and fascinated by the confluence of the world, he was entered. Has sweetman's cellar haved gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi, has the corner of the entrance, and the crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of the of many colored sweets decorated with leaves of the silver and the gold. The child started open-eyed and his mouth watered of the barfi that was his favorite. Sweet, I want that barfi, he slowly murmured, but he half knew as he began that his plow would not be hunt become his parents would say he was greedy. So without wasting of an answer, he moved on. He moved on. Open the eyes, he slowly mustered. Open the eyes, not be headed, because his parents would say he was greedy. He was greedy, so without waiting of an answer, he moved on. And flower his parents, a flower seller, hopped a flavor of that the child wouldn't know. I know the child was entered for him. Other foot, a garland of Golgappa, a garland of Gulmohan. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. He went towards the basket where the flower lay heaped and half murmured, I want that garland, but he well knew his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green and purple balloons flying from it, and and the child was simply carried away by the rainbow glory of their silken color, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloon, because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. So he walked on further. A snake charmer took playing a flute to an snake with coiled itself in a basket. In a basket, it had raised in a glanceful bent like a neck for a swarm while of raising. While on raising, the coil itself in the basket. In the basket, it held raised in a graceful belt like the neck of a swan. While the music stole into his invisible ear like the gentle of the swarm, while the music stole into its invisible ear like the gentle repelling of an invisible waterfall. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. There was a roundabout. He was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women, and children carried away in a welling motion, shielded and carried with dizzy Dr. Lothar, the child watching them intently, and then he made a blood request. I want to go on a roundabout, please, father or mother. Please, father or a mother. I was a saying to God to gift me. To God a gift. Was a gift was shared to me. I got a gift from my parents, a balloon. I got a gift from my parents that I was surprising because it was a lucky gift. A shower of young flower fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to rather the really petal in his hand, but lo, heard the cooling of doves and ran towards his parents, shouting the glove, the drove. The raining petals should dropped from his forgotten hands. Come, child, come, they called to his child, who had now gone running in wild capers round the banana tree, and gathering him up, they took the narrow winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard field. The snake charmer should the flute coiled. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as a snake charmer played, he pursued further. There was a rounded in full swing. Man, woman, and children carried away in the Wherefully motion. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, he father. There was a rounded in full swing. Man, woman, and children carried away in a whirling motion, and carried with dizzy laughter. The child watching them intently, and then he made a bold request. I want to go on a roundabout. Please, father and mother. Please, father and mother. There was no reply. There was no reply from my parents. Pupil was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there. Heard. There were no hurt. A halt of him. He turned to look on other side. On other side, there was no reply. A halt for him. He turned to look on other side. They were not turned. They were not turned from my parents. And he saw that I will give it, and I will give it. I saw this first time. He turned to look on other side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. A full deep cry rose within his dry roasted, and with a sudden dunk of him body, he ran from where he stood, crazy in real fear. Mother, father, tears rolled down from his eyes. Hot and cold. His fluent face was so surprising. He ran to one side first, then to the other, hidden and theatre in all direction, not knowing not where to go. Mother, father, he wait. His yellow turban come untied, and his cloth become muddy, having run to and fro in the race of running for a while. He stood, definited his crest, surprising into copse at little distance on the green grass. He could see through his filmy eyes men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of bright yellow cloths, but there was no sign to there was no sign of his father and mother among this people who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. He ran quickly again, this time to a shrine to which people seemed to be crowding every little inch of shine, to which people seemed to be crowding every little inch of space here was calculated with man, but he ran away. But he ran through people legs. His little saw lingering mother and father near the entrance to the temple. However, the crowd become everything. Men jostled each other, heavy men with flattered, muddied eyes and hefty shoulders. The poor child struggled to throw a bit way between their feet, but knocked to and fro. He ran through people legs, his little with flashing muddied eyes, knocked to and fro by their brutal movements. He might having been tempered underfoot and be not cheered at the highest pitch of the voice. Father and mother, a man in the suffering crowd heard his cry and stopping with great difficulties, lifting him up in his arm. How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked. Has he strayed clear of the mass? The child went more bitterly than ever now and only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by talking him to the roundabout, which you have a right on the horse. He gently asked, has he approved the ring? The child throat tore into the thousand shell shops, and he only shouted, I want my father, I want my mother. The man heard two words, the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the shrieking cobra. Listen to that. Nice music, child. He played. But the child shut his eyes with his finger and shouted his double petaled stare. I want my mother, I want my father. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright color of the balloon would distract the child's attention and quicken him. Would you like a rainbow colored balloon? He asked. The child turned his eyes from the flying balloon and just sobbed. I want my mother, I want my father. The man is still trying to make the child happy. Bore him to the gate where the flower seller sat. Look, look, can you smell those nice flowers? Child, would you like a garland to put round your neck? The child turned his nose away from the basket and his soap. I want my father, I want my mother. Thinking to whom's his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweet, the man took him to the counter of the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed. I want my father, I want my mother. Chapter 2. The Adventure of Toto. Grandfather bought Toto from a Tonga driver from the sum of 5 rupees. The Tonga driver used to keep the little red monkey tied to a feeding trough, and the monkey looked so out of places there that grandfather decided he would add the little flow to his private zoo. Toto was a pretty monkey. His bright eyes sparkled with mischief beneath deep set eyebrows, and his teeth, which were a pearly white, were very often displayed in a smile that flattered the life out of elderly Anglo-Indo ladies in the sun for many years. Yet his fingers were quick and winked, and his tail, while adding to his good look, grandfather believed a tail would add to anyone good look. Also served as a tried hand, he could use it to hang from a branch, and it was capable of scooping up any delicious that might be out of reach of his hand. Grandmother always fussed when grandfather bought home some new bird and animals. So it was decided that Toto Preacher should be kept a secret from his until she was in a particularly good mood. Grandfather, I put him. Grandfather, I put him. The grandmother always pushed. Grandfather and I put him away in a little closed opening into my bathroom away. Bathroom wall where he was tried secularly or so we thought to a peg festered into the wall. A few hours later, when grandmother and the grandfather, only the grandfather and I came back to release Toto, we found that the walls, which had been covered with some ornamental papers chosen by grandfather, saw stuck out a nail bricked birds and animals. It was decided that Toto prevents should be a secret. Tried a closed opening into my bathroom, the secretary, and not now stole out a has neck bricked and plastered the peg in the wall and been wrinkled from its shocked, and my school blazer, which has been hanging there, was in shirt. I covered what grandmother would say, but the grandfather doesn't worry. He seemed pleasant with Toto performance. He clever, said grandfather. Given time, I am sure he could have tied the torn pieces of your blazer into a rope and made his escape from the window. His presence in the house is still a secret. Toto was now transferred to a big case in the servants' quarters, where a number of grandfather a pet lived very sociably together. A tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame, and for a while my pet goat. But the monkey wouldn't allow any of his comparison to sleep at night. So grandfather allowed any of his comparison to sleep at night. So grandfather, who had to leave Denha run next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur, decided to take him alone. Unfortunately, I could not accomplish the grandfather is a big blank saw the bottom become his new abode when the bag was closed. There was no escape. Toto could not get his hand saw the opening and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his away. His away through his efforts to get out only had the of efforts of making the bag roll about on the floor or jump into the air, an exhibition that attract a crowd onlooked on the Denha Run railway platform. Grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile. Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a white grin. The poor man was taken aback, but with great presence of mind and much to grandfather, and only he said, Sir, you have a dog with you. You will have to pay for it. In vain did grandfather take Toto out of the bag. In vain did he try to prove that a monkey did not quality as a dog, or even has a quadruped. Toto was classified a dog by the ticket collector, and 3 rupees was the sum handed over as his fare. Then grandfather, just to get his own blank, Toto took from his pocket out his hot pet ties and said, What must I pay for his, since you charge for all animals? The tickets collector looked closely at the ties, probed it. It was forefinger. Save grandfather a blizzard and look and said, No charge. It is not a dog. It is not a dog. When Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in a stable where he had for a comparison that the family donkey Nava, without apparent cause, pulling at her halter and trying to keep her head as far as possible from a bundle of hay. Grandfather gave Nava a slap across his haunches, and she black dressing Toto with her. He has fascinated onto her long ears with the sharp little teeth. Toto and Nava never become friend. A great treat for Toto during cold winter evenings was the large bowls of warm water given him by grandmother for his bath. He would calling test the temperature with his hand, then gradually step into the bath, first 1 foot, then the other, as he had seen me doing, until he was into water up to his neck. Once comfortably, he would take the soap in his hand or feet, the rub himself all over him, the water become cold. He would get out and run as quickly as he could to the chicken fire in order to dry himself. If anyone laughed at him during this performance, Toto feeling would be hunted and he would refuse to go on with his bath. In his bath, one day Toto nearly succeeded in boiling himself alive. A large kitchen kettle had been left on the fire to boil for tea, and the Toto, finding himself with nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid. And until the water began to boil, Toto then raised himself a little, but finding it cold outside, sat down again. He continued hopping up and down for some time until grandmother arrived and hauled him half boiled out of the kettle. Part was largely developed in Toto. He was always tearing these two pieces. Whenever one of my aunts came near him, he made every effort to get hold of her dress and tear a hole in it. One day at lunchtime, a large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto suffering himself with rice. My grandfather screamed and Toto threw a plate at her. One of my aunt rushed forward and received a glass of water in the face. When the grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the dish of pulao and made it exit through the window. We found him in the branches of the blackfoot tree, the dish is still in his arm. He remained there all afternoon, eating slowly through the rice, determined on fishing every grain, and then, in order to slip grandmother, who had screamed at him. He knew the dish down from the tree and shattered with delighted when it broke into into 100 pieces. Toto was not a sort of pet. He he could keep he could keep for long. Even grandfather released that were not well to go and could not afford the frequent loss of dishes, clothes, curtains and wallpaper. So grandfather found the Tonga driver and sold Toto Black to him for only 3 rupees. Chapter 3 is Vam the story teaser. The story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man Mehard name. He was a junior supervision in a farm which offered a supervision at various type of cities, factories, buses, dams and so on. Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the according to the worksite. He had to keep moving from one place to another place. Now and there them has ordered by his head office. From there could office from a coal near area to a railway bridge concentration site. From there after a month to a chemistry plant which was coming up some weather. He was a bachelor. His need were simply and he was able to adjust himself to all kind of odd condition, whether it was an ill-equipped circuit house or a makeshift canvas tent in the middle of a stone quarry. But one ascent he had was his could. Iswam the cook was quite adjust to Mahendra and following him unpleasantly wherever he was posted. He cooked for Mahendra his cloth and catered away with his master at night. He could live out endless stories and entries on varied subjects. His Warner also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients in the middle of the desolated landscape with no shop visible for miles around. He would mystery with no shops visible for miles around. For miles around, he would mysteries up the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour. Within an hour or arriving at the zinc sheet shuttle at the new workplace, Mahendra would be up early in the morning and leave from for work after breakfast, carrying some prepared food with him. Meanwhile, Iswam could treadle up the shed, wash the cloth, and have a bath, pouring several buckets of water over his hand, mustering a player of the while it would be lunchtime by them. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. The book was unusually some popular Tamil, running to hundred of pages into imaginary descriptions and narration would hold Iswam in thal. His own description was greatly influenced by the Tamil author that he read when he was narrating ever the smallest of ingredients. He would try to work in superience and a surprising ending into the account. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted trees on the highway, he would say, with eye blow suitably arched and the hand head out in a he would say, with eyebrows suitably achieved and hand head out in a dramatic generators. That road was disturbed and I was all alone. Suddenly I supposed something that looked like a enormous, dangerous, bushes beast lying spraying across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back, but as I came closer, I was that it was a feller tree. Within its dry branches spread out, Mahendra would stretch something back in his canvas chair and listen to Iswam tells. The place I come from is famous for timber. Iswam would begin. There is a reaching wooded forested all around the lawns. Iswam would begin the richest wooded forest all around. The forest all around. The lawns are halt on the loches by elephants. They are hug, huge, well fed, beasted. When they turned wild, ever the most expensive Mahoth is not able to control them. After his prologue, Hazvir would launch into a elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. One day, a tweezer escaped from a timber yak and began beginning a trace from ice. The wood even more after this plowing is from would launch into an elaborate an elephant. One day a twister escaped. That he would get up from the floor, and jump around, stamping his feet in emulation of the mad elephants. The elephant reaches the outskirts of a town, breaking the Frenches down like matchsticks. He would continue. It came into the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruit and the mud pot and the cloths. People ran helter crowd whenever children were playing, breaking through the brick wall. All the boys ran into the classroom and shut the door tight. The beats grunted and ranted about pulling out the football goal pot, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and fluttering the drum keep from water and uprooting the stump. Meanwhile, all the teachers had clambered up to the treasures of the school buildings. From there has helped watching the deprecation of the elephant. All the elephant empty has the inhabitation of the entire town had suddenly disappeared. I was studying in the junior school, and the junior classes at that time, and was watching the whole drama from the rooftop. I don't know what came over me. Suddenly I grabbed a can from the hand of one of the teacher and ran down the stairs and into the open. The elephants grunted and menacing swing a branch of a tree which it had in its trunk. I stumbled 8 feet, kicking out a lot of mud and dust. I looked frightened and I moved slowly towards it. Kick in hand, pupil was watching the scene, hypnotized from nearby housetop. The elephant looked at me red-eyed, ready to nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me. I dropped. It lifted its trunk and trumpeted loudly. At that moment, I moved forward and mustering all my force, belched. It fettered toenails on the quick. The beast stunned for a moment, then a shield from head to toe. A collaborate at his point. Islam would leave the story unfinished and get up, mumbling, I will be back after lighting the gas and warming up the dinner. Mahendra had been listening with rapt attention, would be left hanging when he returned. Islam would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Mahendra would have the reminder him that the closure was pending while a veterinary doctor was summoned to revive the animal. Iswar would shrunk casually. 2 days later, it was led away by it Mahmud to the jungle. Well, how did you manage to do it? Iswam, how did you bring out the beast? It has something to do with a Japanese art, I think so. Carrot or jitsu. It is called. I had read about it something. It temporary the nervous system, you see. Not a day passed without Iswan recounting some story packed with adventure, horror and suspense. Whether the story was credible or not, Mahendra enjoyed listening to it because of the inimitable way in which it was told. Horror and suspicion. Whenever the story was The story was in was calculating was pending will be entered. Two days later, it was led away by its Mahmoud to the jungle. Well, how did you manage to do it, Iswam? How did you bring? How did you bring down the beast? It was something to do with a Japanese art. I think, sir. Carrot it. The inverse seems to more than make up from a absence of a TV in Mahendra living quarters. One morning, when Mahendra was having breakfast, Iswam asked, "Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir? After all, after all day is an auspicious day. According to the tradition, we prepare various delicious to to feed the spirit of our and cheers today, sir." That might Mahendra enjoyed the most delicious dinner and complimented Iswam on his queerly skill. He served very pleased but unexpectedly launching into a most garish account involving the supernatural. You know, sir, this entire factory area we are occupying was once a burial ground. He, starting Mahendra, was hurted out of the pleasant revenge he had drifted into after the meal. I know on the first day itself, when I was a human skull laying on the path, even now I came across a number of skull and bones. Is Werner continued. He went on to narrate how he something was ghost at night. I am not easily frightened by these things, sir. I am a brave fellow. But one horrible ghost of a woman which appeared of and on at midnight during the full moon. It is an ugly creature with matted hair and a shriveled face, with a holding its arms. Mahendra Shiving has the description and interpret rather shopping. You are crazy, Invar. There are no such things. There are no such things as ghosts or spirits. It is all. It is all a. It is all a figment. It is all a figment of your imagination. Get your digestive system examinated and maybe your heart as well. You are asking nonsense. He left the room and littered for the night, expecting his warm to sulk for a couple of a day. But the next morning he was surprised the find the look as cheerful and the talkative as ever. From that day and Mahendra, for all his brave, for the night expecting Iswan to suck a couple of a day, but the next morning he was surprised to find the cook as cheerful and talkative as ever. From one day and Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed. With a certain urgency, every night he prepared into a darkness. Outside through the window next to his bed, trying to make sure that there was no movement of dark shapes in the but he could only see a sea of darkness with the twinkling lights of the factory mills away. He had away. A low moan close to his window at first he put it down to a cat prowling around the mice, but the second was the wailing because louder and the less at the level of the window sill. He looked out at the winter sheet of the moonlight outside. There not too far away was a dark cloudy and fell back on the pillow. Mahendra broke into a cold. More white streaked at moonlight outside. They are not too far dark, cloudy from clutching a bundle Mahendra away was a dark cloudy and fell back on the pillow, waiting has the gradually recovered from the gasted experience, he began to reason with himself and finally concluded that it must have been finally concluded that it must have been some sort of auto suggestion, some tricks that his subconsciously and played on him by the time had got up in the morning, had a boat and come out to have its breakfast. The horror of the previous night had faded from the memory is warm. Just as Mahendra was stepping out his warm gliding and said, "Sir, remember the other day when I was taking you about the family ghost with a fetus in its arm? You were so hurry with me for imaginary things. Will you saw him her yourself last night? I came running here. The sound of mourning that was coming from your room." A chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Iswan to complete his sentence. He hurried away to his office and handed in a paper, resolving to leave the haunted place a very next day. Chapter 4. In the Kingdom of Fools. In the Kingdom of Fools, both the king and the mistress were idiots. They did not want to run things the other kings. So they decided to change night till their field and run their businesses only after dark, and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. Anyone was disobeyed would be published with death. The pupil did as they had, who destroyed the death. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of this project. One day a guru and his descript has the success of their project. One day a guru and his descript arrived in the city. It was a beautiful it was a broad daylight, but the ever asleep not a mouse. The two strangers was amazed by what they saw around them and wanted to buy some grocery to them restaurants. They found that everything cost the same, a single duddu. Wherever they bought a measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a daddu. The guru at the displays were delighted. They had never heard of anything like this. They had to buy the food wanted for a rupees. They had cooked and eaten, the guru realized that this was a kingdom of full, and it wouldn't be a good idea for them to stay there. There is so places for us. Let's go, he said to his disciple, but the disciple didn't want to leave the places. Everything was cheap here. All they wanted was good cheap food. The guru said that are all fools. This won't last very long, and you can't tell what they will do to you next. But the disciple would ever listen. The guru kingdom he wanted to stay. The guru finally gave up and said, do what you want, I am going, and left, describing staying on at his fill every day. Bananas and ghee and rice and wheat and grow fat like a street side carried bull. One bright day, a thief broke into a rice merchant house. He had made a hole in the wall and snippers in, and as he was carrying out his loot, has the old house collapsing on his head, killed him on the spot. One bright day, a thief broke into a rich merchant house. He had made a hole in the wall and sneezed in, and he was carrying out his loot. The way of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. His brother ran to the king and complimented, Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a ball fell him and killed him. His merchant is to blame. He should have built a good, strong wall. You must punish the wrongness and the family for the injustice. The king said, justice will be done, don't worry. And at the sum summonized the owner of the house. When the merchants arrived, the king questioned him, what's your name? Such your highness. Were you at home? He broke in, and the wall was weak. It fell on him. He equipped fleet quietly. Your walked killed his man brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you. Lord, said the helpless merchant, I didn't put up the wall. It's a really and the fault of the man who built the wall. He didn't build. It's really you should punish him. Who is that? My lord, this wall was built is in my father time. I knew the man. He is an old man now. He alive nearby. The king sent your messaging to bring in the blinklayers who had built the wall, that they brought him tied hand and foot. You there, did you build this man wall in his father time? Yes, my lord, I did. What kind of wall is this that you build? It has heaven on a poor man. Poor man and killed him. You were murdered him. He have to punish you to death. I built this wall and the I was not going not good, but that was because my mind was not going up and down, and it was no good, but that was because my mind was not on it. It remember very well a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with her and killed jinking, and I couldn't keep my eyes on my head on the wall I was building. You must get the dancing girl. I knew where she lived. 5 minutes break I'm going to take it. Five minutes break. 5 minutes break I'm going to take it. I will come along after 5 minutes. It was published. The dancing girls and the woman, old woman, came trembling to the count. Did did you walk up and down the street many years ago while his poor man was building a wall? Did you see them? With yes, yes, my lord. I remember it very well. So you did walk up and down with with your anklet zinking. You were working and you distract him. So so he built a bad wall. It was fallen on a human burger and killed him. You were you were killed and innocent killed him. You were innocent and innocent man. You were have to punished. She thought for a minute and said, "My lord, wait, I know now why I was walking up and down third street. I had given some lawn gold of the gold goldsmith to make some jewelries of for me. He was a lazy squirrel. He made so many excuses, said he could give it now and he could would give it them, and so on all day. He made me walk up and down on his mystery a dozen times. That was when the Blinkseer saw me. It's not my fault, my lord. It's the damned gold mist fault. Poor things, she absorbed right through the king. Waiting the evidence, we were we were got the real culprit at last. Get the gold mist wherever he is riding at once. The gold bell bailiffs searched for the gold mist who was thinking in the corner of the his shop when he heard the accusation against him. He had his own story to tell, my lord. He said, I am poor, Goldmist. It's true. Made the I made this dancer comes many times to my door. I gave I gave her excuses because I couldn't finish many things her jewelry be, before I finished the rich merchant order. They had a wedding coming and they would wait. You know how impact rich men are. Who is the rich merchant who keep out from fishing? His poor woman and jewelry man, her walk up and down, which distract and a blink glare, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen off an innocent man and keep and killed him. You can you name him? The gold mist named The merchant of his was non his was none other than the original owner of the house, whom Wall had fallen. Now justice had come full circle through the king back to the merchant when he was really submerged back to the count. He arrived crying, it was not me but my father who ordered the jewelry. He did. I am innocent. But the king concluded his mystery and the rules decisively. It's true. Your father is the true murderer. He is the he is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You are in her chat everything from the criminal father of your his riches as well as his sins. I knew at once even I first set I first I first set years on the years on the you years on you years on you years on you that you must die. And he ordered a new stake to be made ready for the execution. As the servant is sharpened the stake and got it ready for the finally impacting and the criminal, it occurred the mystery minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake. He appeared to the king common scene. He appeared to the king common scenes. The king too worried about it. What shall we do? He said, which suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do was to find a man fat enough to fit the straight. The servants were immediately set all over the town looking for a man who would fit the state, and their eyes fell on the descripting displays who had flattered himself for month on bananas and rich and wheat and ghee. What have I done wrong? I am innocent. I am sannyasi. He cried, that man may be true, but it's the royal distiller that we should find a man fat enough to beat the state. They said and carried him to the place of escalates. He reminded his wish Guru's world. While he was waiting For that he peered to his guru in his hand, asking his he could see the future as he could. The disciple who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food, as soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple that and told him something in the wheelchair. They he went to the king and addressed him. O visitor of kings, who is greater, the guru or the disciple? Of course, of the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask? Then put me to the state first. Put my disciples to death after me. When the disciple heard his, he understood and began to my first. You brought me here first. Put me to death first, not him. The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The first was pulled. By this behavior, he asked the guru, why do you want to die? We choose him because we need a fat man for a state. You should not ask me such questions. Put me to death first, replied the guru. Why, there's some mystery here. As a wise man, you first make me understand. Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you? Asked the guru. The king said her solemn word. Or the king like you, that stake it is the state of the good God of justice. It is the new. It has the never had a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be Robin Hood, as the king of his country, and whoever goes next will be reborn, and the king of this country, and whoever goes the next will be the future mystery of his house, the country we were sick of our ascetic life. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and mystery for a while. Now keep your world in the mystery and the stake of the God of justice. The God of justice, in the death of justice, whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of his country, and whatever In the mischief, the whoever goes next, the ghost have the ribbon he didn't want to lose. The kingdom to someone else in the next round, to the life he needed time to. He ordered the executive postponed to the next day. In the next life, let's go to the next life. On the snake of self, we will here to celebrate our. Will you are happily the popod to the next. It's not right for us. The stake, the robbers ministry, again holy man, to not tell lie. He said, and the minister again. So he said, first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Then those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. That night the king and his ministries went secretly to the prison, released the guru, and discracked themselves as the two and has arranged the work taken to the stake and the properly executed. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to hide, the guru and the someone other arrived. They begged the guru and the disciples to be their things and their ministries. It didn't take any arguments to proclaim the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the guru. They finally arrived to the rule the kingdom as the foolish king and the silly ministers, on the conditions that they could change all the old laws. From them on, night would against be night, and day would again be day, and you could get other from a do it become like and other places. Chapter 5. The Happy Prince. High above the city on a tall column stood the status of the Happy Prince. He was glittered all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes he had two bright sapphires and a large red woolly glove on his slot head. One night, therefore, the city, a little swollen, his friends has gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind. To go to Egypt too. All day along he flew, and all night time he arrived at the city. Where shall I put up? He said, I hope the town head has made preparation. Then he saw the status on the tall column. I will put up there. He carried it is a fine position with plenty of fresh air, so he arrived just between the feet of the happy prince. I have a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked around. As he prepared to go to sleep, but just he was putting his head under wings. What a curious thing, he cried. There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear, the bright, and yet is raining. Then another drop fell. What is the use of the status if the cannot keep the rain off? He said, I must look for a good chimney pot, and he determined to fly again away. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell, and he dropped the what did he said? The eyes to the happy prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down the golden cheeks. His face was so butterflies in the moonlight that the little shallow was filled with pity. Who are you? He said. I am the happy prince. Who are you weeping them? Asked the shallow. You have quite dreaded me when I was alive and had a human heart, answered the status. I did not know what trees were, for I lived in the palace wherever shallow is not allowed to enter. My countries called me the happy prince and the happy entered. I was, so I lived, and so I death, and now I am the death. They have to sit up here so high that I can see the useless and all the ministry of my city, and though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. What is he not solid gold? Said the drapery of himself. He was not polite to make any personal remarks. Fall away continues the status in a low musical voice. Far away in a little street there is a poor house. On one of the window is open, and together it I can see is a red hand, all picked by the needle, for she is the stream still. She is embroidered flowers on a settle grown for a love still in the queen maids of honor to wear. At Dundas Count wall in a wall in a wall in a bed of the corner of the room. Her little boy is really ill. He has a fever. Asking his mother to go to give his oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river's water, so he is crying, shallow, shallow, little shallow. Will you not bring her the ruby out of my scrawled heels? My feet are filtered of his predestined, and I cannot move. I was waited for in Egypt, said the fellow. My friend are flying up, down, the nail and the talking of the large lotus flower. Soon they will go to sleep. The prince asked the shallow to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. The boy is so thirsty and of mother, so said he said, I don't think I like boy. Answered the shallow, I want to go to Egypt. But the happy prince looked so sad that the little shallow was sorry. It is a very cold here, he said, but he arrived to stay with him for one night, and his message he messages. Thank you, little shallow, said the prince. The shallow picked out the great ruby from the prince's shirt and robbed. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony with her lover. I hope my dresses will be ready in the time for the state ball, she said. I have ordered flowers to be embroidered on her on it, but the stream trees are so lazy. 2 minute break. After 2 minutes I will come and thank you. back. I am back. Now in the minute I will study. But the happy prince looked at us. Thank you, little swallow, said the prince. The swallow specked out the great ruby from the prince's sword, and he passed by the palace and heard the round of the dancing. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony. A bird on it, but the Shremas are so lazy. He passed over the river. I passed the things that I don't want to do it. There is nothing to do from the past losing a boy forehead with his wings. How cool I feel, said the boy. I get I must be getting better, and he sank just around into the delicious slumber. Then the swallow flew back to the happy prince, and the cool told him, "What is that doing? It's curious," he remarked, "but I feel better. That cool it." What he had done. "It is curious," he remarked, "but I feel quite warm now, although it is so cold. That is because that is because you have good action," said the prince. And the little swallow began the things, and the grey flew also thinking along, made him sleepy. What day broke, the flew down to the river and had a bath tonight. "I go to Egypt," said the swallow, and he was in high script. Uh, we have done the English speaking in the 2 hour 22 minutes 48 second. Sorry, 2 hours 25 minutes in the 37 seconds. We have done the English 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 speaking. Then after that, I'm going to do the you can say the Hindi speaking. Okay, 1 second. Coming from the Hindi book. Okay, wait till I am coming from the Hindi book, and we will read the Hindi books after this time. Okay, come along with me and see this video till and share your friends, and the subscribe and the like this video, please. We are going to start the Hindi. Then let me start it. ओके कोई तारीख न चलना कि सच्चाई हो कि टूटे टूटे पा हुक्म रजा चलना नाने लिखे ना हुक्म न करने जायज़ हुक्म लिखे हुक्मी हुक्म जी हुक्म लिख जाए हुक्म अंदर हुक्म नीच हुक्म लिख जाए इकना हुक्म उसी हुक्म भी सदा हुआ हुक्म अंदर सबको बाहर हुक्म कोई नानक में जाए उसे था कहने कोई गाफे को ताणु गाफे को गुरु दे जा गावे को विखे विखे विचार गावे को साथ कहे कांके गावे को जी लै फिर दे गावे को जापे दिस दूर गावे को विखे हद हदूर कटना कटी न आवे कोट कोट कट कट कटी कोट कोट देदा ले दे लखवाए चुपे चुपे ना होई हुक्मे हुक्म न चलाई रहो नानक से वे पाओ साचा साहब साच ना बढ़ाए विचार आखे मके दे दे दात कर देता फिर की आगे रखिए जिद से डर पाओ मुँह की बोलो बुढ़िया मुँह की बोलो बुढ़िया फिर की आगे रखिया जिद से डर पाओ मुँह की बोलो बुढ़िया जिद सूर्य धर पियाओ अमली वेला सच नौ नाने वधिया विचार कर्मी आपके कपड़ा नदी मुक्त हुआ नानक कहे जानिए सब आप सचा थपी ना जग कितने आपे आप निजा सोए जिन से व्यतीत पाए बा नानक गाड़ी गुरु नानक गाड़ी गुरु से गुरुमु नादन गुरु में द गुरुमुख रह समाय गुरु यीशु गुरु 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 पार जो जाना खड़ा 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 जाई बुरा एक देव उसाई अपना जिया ताईक दाता सोमे से न जाई तिथि नामा जेती बाबा भीड़ भाड़े की नाई करी जेती से ती पाए बेटा वीर कर्मा की मिले लाए मत फिचर जे कुर्की सुरी गुराई देव उसाई समना जिया काइक दाता सोमे से नराई जे चारे आर्जा हो तो सुरी हुई नावा खंडा विचारे ना चे समझो जे तिस नंदा वार रही तवात न पूछे के किता अंडा की का दोषी दोष धरे नाना ने वो गुड़ करे गुरुवंटिया गुरुदे तेया कोई न सोचे जे तिस सूर्य से पूर्ण धुरी दर धुरा सूर्य दी लोक पता सूर्य धर धर या सूर्य दूत न लोक पता सूर्य पहुंच सके काल नानम कृष्ण सदाफिका सूर्य दुख पाप नाश सूर्य धूप पाप का नाश सूर्य यीशु बमाइन सूर्य मोक्ष सलासीन सूर्य शासन में नाना मुक्ता सदैव का सूर्य दुख पाप नाम सूर्य सत्सुक्या सूर्य असक काशना सूर्य पर पावना सूर्य सत्स काशना सूर्य पर पावना सूर्य लागे सहजिया नाना मुक्ता सदैव का सूर्य दुख पाप का नाश सूर्य सरा गुरु के सा सूर्य से एक पेड़ पूछा सूर्य अंधे पावर सूर्य हाथ होवे उसका नाना व्यक्ता सदैव का सूर्य दुख पाप का नाश मरने की कत कही ना जाए जे कागज करना ना जे को मरने का भार कर्म विचार ऐसा नाम जो जे को मन जाड़े मन को मरने सकल ऐसा ना मरने सकल मरने मरने मोह चोटा न गए मरने चम के ठाक न जाए ऐसा नाम जो हो जे को मन जाड़े मन कोई मरने पार मोह दुआर मरने पस मरने बगना चले मरने धर्म मरने ऐसा नाम जो जे को मन जाड़े मन कोई मरने पार मोह दुआ मरने पर श्रद्धा मरने तारे तारे मरने नाना पूछे ऐसा नाम जो जिसको मन जाड़े मन कोई ऐसा नाम जे को मन जाने को मन पंच पड़वा पंचे पावे दरका मां पंचे सो दरजा पंचा का गुरु इत्या जे को कहे करे पिचा कट्टे के कोड़े करे धोल दम धे को जे संतोष थपी रखिया जिनसु जे को बुझे होवे सच्चा धवले ऊपर केता भाव धरती होए पड़े होए धोए तिस्ते भाव तले कपड़े जो जी जंत रंगा के नाव समरा जिया लिखे बड़ा ए लेखा लिख जान लिखो लेखा लिखा केता होए केता ताण केती ताण ताण किता पसाव एको केती दाट कीती टोटे कोट किता पसाव एको कफाव तिस्ते हो लगुदा खुदरा कवर का विचार वाणी जावे एक बार जो तू पावे तो तू सदा सलाम का तू सदा सलामत निरंकार असंग जप असंग भाव असंग पूजा असंग दुता असंग गणना मोह खुला असंग जो मन वाइदा असंग मकर गुरु गया असंग साथी असंग सता असंग सूर मोह बुक सार असंग मूल्य तायता भूक्या भुगतना का विचार मारे ना एक बार जो तू पावे सोई तू सदा सलाम का असंग जप असंग भाव असंग असंग निधन नानक विच गिरे वारी ना एक बार जो तू पावे सोई भी तू सदा सलाम निरंकार असंग नाम सदा असंग असंग कैसे आखिरी नाम अखली सला आखिरी ज्ञान गिर अखरा लिख अखरा से जिन है लिखे से जी फुरबा टिपा से कोरोना का जा वाणी ना एक बार जो तू पावे सोई तू सदा से बड़ी हट पावे से दौड़ी दौड़ी उतर से मुंह पड़ी से देश आबू लगी हुई बड़ी हट पावे से पुण्य पापी आखड़ बनाई आखड़ कर आखड़ आपे बीच आपे क्या है नानक में जैब से ताक में कहने जे को पावे दिल ना पाए सूर्य मन्य मन कीता भाव हर्षा तीरन मल नाव सब गुण में तेरी में नहीं कोई वीर गुण कीते भगन न होए फारसी और भाड़ी सच्चाओ सत सुहान कहना चाहिए सत सुहार कवर न स्वेला कवर खबर सी रोती मारका खबर सी रोती वेल न पाइए न जी होवे वेल वकर न पाइए खड़िए जी होवे लिखना तिथि वाला जोगीदार रूद मान कोई ताक में जग से ताकू के तो एक मूवी सदाई का हुक्म तो किता आधा का होवे नाना जी को आगे गए ना कोई पता लग से उड़क बहाने वेद कह एक बार सह सिरापा कह असुली इखलातार लेखा होए ना लिखिए लेखा होए बड़ा नानक वड्डा आकिए आपे जाने आप सलाह ऐसी सदी नदी पोक सुआ नानक एवे जानी समु भाव सन जानी समु सा सुल्तान गिरा सेती मल नाव सफ हिती वाउ न हो नहीं जे तिस मन अन्ना सेफ्टी कहना अन्न जड़ने देना अन्न वेगा सूर्य अन्न जापे किया अन्न जापे किता का अन्न जापे पारावार अन्न काटे कहते हुए ताकि अन्न पाए हे अन्न जाने कोई बहुत ये बहुत होए बड्डा साहे बड्डी ना कि ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा था एवट ऊंचा होवे कोई तिस ऊंचे कहे जाने हुए जेवट आप जाने आप नानक हुक्म नानक नदरी हुक्मीदात हुक्म अंदर कर्म लिखा न जाई वड्डा दाता तिल न उदाई केते मंगल जोध अपार केतिया गढ़ नहीं विचार केते थप तुते विकाल केते लैले मूरख बाई केतिया दुख बुक सद आँख नहीं केतिया दुख एबी दात तेजता बंद खलासी होए आँख ना सके कोई जे को आके आँख ना पाए अमूल जाने अमूल पटार आपे आप निर्जय आंखें से भी दे जिन्हों वक्त से नाना पातसा अमूल ऊंचा अमूल भारी अमूल बंटा अमूल वापे अमूल ले जाई अमूल भाई अमूल समाई अमूल धर्म अमूल लिचा अमूल तूल अमूल वर्मा अमूल बख्शीस अमूल निशान अमूल कम अमूल फुरमाए अमूल आके न जाए आँख रहे लिया आंखें भेद कहन लिजा आंखें भर में आके इंद आंखें गो भर में आके इंद आके गोभी ते गोविंद आके ईशु आके सिद्ध आके कहते भेद आके दानव आके देव आके सुंदर मन जन से कहते आखन आके पाए आके कहते आखे खे उत्पत जाए ऐती किते होए कोई ता आख न सके कोई नान जाने सोए जिको आके बोले ता न चले ना जो तिस भावे सोए तू सदा शरण निरंकार बड़ी हथ वाजिब नांद अनेक असंग कहते पावन हारे कहते राग बोले कहते पावन गावत दुंदु हवे राजे हावे काव्य साथ विचार काव्य चतुर्थ काव्य काव्य चुप काव्य खासी काव्य कर सोई तो काव्य नानक की सोई से नानक से आई पट्टी सकल जगत मंजित शक्ति साधे आदि चुक हाजर लोहे मेरे पास नाथ आपना दिन जैसे चुप क्या हो रहा है चुकी को वेस ऐसा एक नाना है एक सच्चाई चिप हो है कि होता है आदेश नाना सच्चे आता है ना चुकी क्या कर्मी आप कापड़ा नदी वो नानक आवे जानी सब अवसर तभी ने जिक्र आग पे हमने जिससे भी थे नानक आड़ी होता नाने कहती ते वापस in Hindi we are going to start in English too we are not I am not good in Hindi then I am going to start in English okay don't problem I am going to taking the English book and starting where we have lived I am coming I have came back. Let's start it. The English concept we have left from where? Shallow, shallow, little shallow, said the prince. With you, stay with you, me. One night longer, I am waiting for in. Is it? Answered the shallow. Shallow, shallow, little shallow, said the prince. Far away, across the city, I see a young man in a garret. He is he is side there in a branch of the wizard violent. His hair is brown and the crip of and his lips and red has a pomegranate and he has wondered and that he has wondered the following in the absence. You have to people that we have to people with the good ideas to make it longer and the longer and the longer. We are going to script from the save it and move it from where we are switching the from we are from where and from where how we are going to split you from here or where. Come along with me. I will be make you in the you where you are going to me with me. Okay, come along with me and I will be show you that how beautiful the young man is there. Come along with me. I will be sure that it is a fair or a bad thing to we are conducting the class. How we are good man. I will be back from the air and conducting the shoulders from the eyes to the eye and from it is the shallow the direction of the theater at the fellow dreaming eyes. He is trying to finish a play for a director of the theater, but it is the coolest one to write at one. There is no fire in the gate and the hunger had made hid face. I will, I will, I will wait with you one night, shadow, night longer, said the shallow, who really had a good heart. He asked if he should take anybody. Robbie has the play right. Has the playwright of the things that we are conducting today. It will wait with you one night longer, said the shallow, who really had a good heart. He asked if he should take anybody. Robbie to young play white. Alice, I have no Robbie now, said the prince. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare shrapper, which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. He ordered the shallow to pot out one of them and take it to the firewood and finish his play. He said, "Dear prince," said the shallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Shallow, shallow, little shallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So the shallow the prince do as I commander you. So the shallow plucked out the prince's eyes and flew away. Go to the young man gathered. It was early enough to get it, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his heart buried in his hand. Found the beautiful shaping lying on the filtered violet. I am bringing to the apparent. He carried this is from some great addition. Shallow, little shallow. The prince said, "The not stay, the light longer. If she does not bring home some money, and she is saying she has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eyes and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. I will stay with you one night longer." "What night longer?" said the shallow, and said the prince, "Do as I command." The laughing, then the shouting show. the back to the prince. You are blind now. B said, so I said, stay with you always. No, little shallow, said the prince, poor prince, who must go away to Egypt. No, I will, no, I will, slept at the prince's feet. All the next all the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him and told him and told him stories of what he had seen in stranger life. He is studying the switch. He has shallow and he has slept at the prince's feet. At the prince's feet, the poor princeman has told that sorry man, I will be not I will not do these things again. And the prince said, which things that you have done in the life do you do this only. The good things is the bad in the measure of the bad things in the good things are the best for the measure of the poor. The living always thinks that gold can make them happy. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the shallow faked off till the happy prince looked quite dull. The grey leaf after leaf of the happy prince looked quite dull, and the grey leaf after leaf of the happy prince fine gold he bought of the poor and the children face the grew Roshan and grey laughing and played in the street. He had breed now. They cried. They then the shawl then the show snow came. Then the snow came. The the colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him. The not looking and tried to go back, the wrapping his wings, but at last he knew that he was going to die just enough strength. Too long there must kiss me on the lips, for I love you. It is not enough that I am going set the shallow. That the shallow Will you let me kiss you hand? I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last. Little shallow, said the prince, you have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you. It is not a Egypt that I am going too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, the house of the death. The death is the brother of the sleep. Is he not? And he kissed the happy prince on the lips and fell down dead at his feet. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the status. As if something has broken. The fact is that the leader heart had snapping right into it. Certainly was a dreadful, heartful, and a hard fought. The below in the company with the town curious as they passed the column he looked at the status. Dear me, now slabbling the the happy prince looked. He said the now how slabby indeed, cried the town councillors, who always agreed with the measure, and that they went up the look at it. The ruby had fallen out in the shroud, the with eyes gone wrong, and he is going the golden no long, said the major. In the fact, he is little better than a bigger, little bit than a bigger, said the town concilious, and there is actually a death bird at his feet. Consually, and here is actually a death bird. The feet on the issues that bird are not to be allowed to die here, and the town clit made a note of the suggestion. Reclaiming outside the baker door, when the baker was not looking, and tried to himself keep himself warm by flapping his wings, but at last he knew that he was going to die. He had just goodbye. The best feat, the Confucius major, we must really issue a proclamation. The birds are not to be allowed to die here, and the town click made a notice of the suggestion, so they pulled art professional at the university. Then they melted the status in a furnace. What a strangle things, said the overseer of the workman. Has the founder they broken the heart of the furnace? We must grow in the death fellow was also laying, bring me the two most precious day, the said God, the heart and the debt, but you have researched choosing said God, for in the any my garden of the golden of the happy prince shall prison me. Chapter 6. Weathering the storm in Ereza. On 27 October 1999, 7 years after his mother's death, Prashant has gone to the block headmaster of Irama, a small town of in coastal Orissa, some 10 kilometers from his village, to spend the day with a friend in the every a dark and a menacing storm quickly gathered. Wind beat against the house with a speed the Prashant has never witnessed before. Heavily and inclement rain, the flood and the darkness ancient trees were approved and the crashes to the earth. Screams rent the air as the people and the human were swift washed away, and the early visitor swift into her friend house necked the deep. The building was the brink and the motor is the enough suffering the devastation of the wind velocity of 350 km per hour, but the cold visor of the family grew with the grazing of the trees that had got approved and the fallen off on his on his human sometimes in the middle of the night, damaging its roof and the walls. So we have done the 3 hour 1 minute and the 26 seconds. We have done actually in the question answer speaking. After that, I am going to take a break for 5 minutes because my legs is paining, and 3 hour 1 hour 2 completed. That I am standing from 3 hour though, so I am going to take a break for 5 or 15 minutes. Coming coming before 5 minutes, after 5 minutes. So bye bye, I'm going, and I will come after 5 minutes. Thank you. So back and the back. The all round avenues. Whenever the water was more shallow at places, it was wasted deep and progress was slow. Progress was slow. At the after some distance, he was relieved. He was relieved to find two friends of his uncle who were also returning to his after returning to his village. They decided to move ahead together. As they waded through the visitors' waters, the scenes they visitors grew more and more macabre. They had to push away many human bodies, men, women, children, and carcasses, and dogs, goats, and the cattle that the current swept against them as they moved ahead. The every village that they decided they could barely see a house standing see a house standing. Young Prichant decided to go to the Red Cross shelter to look for his family. Among the first among the first people he saw in the crowd was his maternal grandmother. Weak with hunger, she rushed to him, her hands outstretched, her eyes brimming. It was a miracle they had long given him up for bodies that quickly world spread, and his extended family gathered around him and spread in the relief. Panchayat anxiously scratched the monthly battered his brother and the sister, his uncle and the aunt. They all seemed to be there.
दादी मेरे मत्थे थोड़ा सा पानी डाल दो थोड़ा सा पानी डाल दो फिर बाहर से डाल देंगे
By the next morning, as he took in the described situation in the center shuttle, he decided to get a grip over himself. He centered a deadly grip, settling upon the 2500 strong crowd in the shuttle. Crowd on the shuttle. So far they had survived on green coconut, but there was too few to go around such a tumult of pupil Prasad, all of 19 years, decided to step in leather of his hand. He organized he organized a group of young and the elder to joining the merchant once against the part with his rise. This year the delegating successed and returned wading through the recurring waters with food for the entire shelter. No one carried that the rice was already rotting. Branches from fallen trees were gathered to light a reclutch and show fire on which to cook the rice for the first time in the 4 days. The surviving has the cyclone shelter were able to fill their bellies. His next task was to organize a team of youth volunteers to clear the shelter of the worst urine, the floating careless, the world injured. On the first day, a military helicopter flew over the shelter and the dropped food pellets. It them the task force gathered empty utilized from the shelter. Then they deliberated the children to lie in the sand left by the waters around the shelter. With these utilized on this stomach to community to the passing helicopter that they were hurrying hungry stomach to the got got through the regular helicopter. The panchayat found that a large polythene sheet shelter for to look the secure food and the melter. The shelter has the per week. He pulted the NGO and the children. He organized sports event. He himself loved to play cricket and so he organized cricket match for children. Panchayat encouraged each other violent in helping the windows and the children to pick up the broken pieces of their lives. The initial government purely, however, these steps were successfully resented. Such institutes children would grow up without love and window. Wonder suffer from stigma and loathing. It is 6 months after the devastation of the super cyclone. This time Panchayat wondered spirit has heard his handsome earth face is what the window and the orchard children of this village see to darkness are of Greek. Friend, Chapter 7, The Last Leaf. Friend. The show and Johnny, two young artists, shared a small flat. The flat was on the third story on one old house. Johnsley fell very seriously ill in November. She had prayed she would lie in her bed without moving, just grayed out in the shore. Her friend, her friend were very worried. She sent for the doctor, although the came no change in the Johnsley condition. One day, the doctor took the asked, "Is anything is worry, Johnsley?" No replying, sure. But why do you ask? The doctor said, Johnsley is seem has made up the mind. She is going get well. If she does not want to live, medicines will not help here. I'm going to drink the water. I'm coming from in 1 second.
फैन मैंने ऑफ करके आया था
She tried her best to make Josie take an internet in things around her. She talked about clothes and fashions. Just Johnny did not respond. Johnny continued to lie still on her bed. She browned her drawing board into the Johnny room and starting painting to take Johnny mind of her likeness. Mind of her illness of the illness she swift while while working. Suddenly On the Johnsley, she had the Johnsley mind for her illness. She visited while studying, while working. Suddenly, she heard the Johnsley, the Johnsley something. She quickly rushed to the bed and heard Johnsley counting backwards 12. After some time, she whispered this whispered 11, then teen, then the teen and the teen and the teen. Quickly that whispered the she saw old Illy Clipper. The outside slipper was Hadley its leaf. What is it, dear? She asked. Six slipper, Johnny. They are falling. They are falling faster now. 3 days ago, there, there were almost 100 leaves. There are only 5 left now. It is autumn, said Q, and the leaves will fall. When the last leaf fall, I will die, said Joseph with finality. I have knew this for the last 3 days. Oh, that nonsense, replied Shaw. That old Ilvi, that the old Ilvi, you will get, you will get worried. Josley said not say anything. Shaw went and brought her a bowl and a soap. I don't want any soap, said Joseph. I am not hungry. No, there are only 4 leaves left. I want to see the last one before I gets dark. Then I will sleep forever. So sat on the suggestive bed, kissed her, and said, you are not going to die. I can't draw the curtain for I need the light. I want to finish the painting and get some money for you. Please, my dear friend. She behaved. Johnny, promise not to look out of the window while I paint. All right, said Joseph. Finish your painting soon. So I want to see the last leaf fall. I am trying to waiting. I have to die. So let me go separating to the soon. Try to sleep, said Shaw. I have to paint an old mirror. I will call Behrman up to be my model. She reached down. Behrman lived on the ground floor. He was he was a 60-year-old. He was a 60-year-old here worried Behrman. Refused to eat or drink, and a C. Joseph Behrman said, They tiptoed into the room Joseph was sleeping. So, has thought the leaf wouldn't fall any minute now. Whatever did not say a word. He went back to his home room. Joseph woke up next morning in a feeble voice. She asked to draw the curtains. She was nervous. She she drew back the curtain very religiously. Oh, she exclaimed as she looked at the wine clipper. Look, there is still one leaf on the clipper. On the clipper, it looked quick green and healthy in the spirit of the storms and the flames winter. It didn't fall. I heard the winter last night said I thought it would. You do have fallen the fall today. Then I will die. You haven't die. Said so energetic. You have to live for your friends. What what would happen to me if you die? Joseph smiled weakly and closed her eyes. After every hour or so, she would look out of the window and find the leaf still there. It seemed to be lifting the clipper in the every there was another storm, but the leaf did not fall. Joseph lay for a long time looking at the leaf. Then she called out to show, I have been a bad girl. You have walked after me so lavishly. I have not cooperated with you. I have been distracted and gloomy that the doctor came after exclaiming, told sure, Zomi, I am concentrative. She recover soon. So the beehives go. She suffering, also suffering from the pneumonia. But I am afraid there is no hope for him. The next morning, shock came. The taking the Joseph hand in her hand, Mr. Brigham died of pneumonia this morning. He was ill for only 2 days. The first day was Fanitor found him on his bed. His cloth, his clothes and shoes were wet, and he was suffering. He had been out in that stormy night. Then they found a ladder and a lantern, a still lightning ladder near his bed. There were The yellow paint on the flower near the leather. Josley, dear, said Joe. Looked out of the window. Look at the illy leaf. Haven't you wondered? They it was not
बहुत ऊपर है
was not wind blow that Behermine masterpiece. He painted it the night at the last leaf fell. Chapter 8. A house is not a home. My first year of high school felt a and to make matter worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very assaulted. I missed my old teacher so much that I worked to go back and visit them. They wouldn't get involved in school activities. People they told me that in time I would adjust and probability end up loving my new school more than I have my old one. They make they made me promise that when that happened I would I would still come by and visit them from time to time. I doesn't stood fly the philology is what they were saying, but I look something comfort in it, not link. One Sunday afternoon, not long after I had started high school, I was sitting at home at our dining room table, going homework, doing homework. It was a cold and tribal cat was lying on the top of many papers, pulling, louding, and occasionally swifting at my pen for entertainment shake. She was never saw for from me. I had I had risked her walk, her heaven. She was a kitten, and somehow when she felt that I was the one responsibility for giving her the good life. My mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Suddenly, in the thaw, the streams of the ceiling, the smoke began to fill the room so quickly that we could barely see groping. Our way to the front door. We all we all run we all run front above the The time we made our way outside, the whole roof was entirely in the flame, spreading quickly. I ran to the my house. My mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents. She dropped the case on the lawn, and I had I am carried I am crazy state ran back into the house. I knew when the sea was after my father had died when I was young, and I was certain that she was not going to let the picture to the letter go up in the flame. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Still, I screamed at her mom. No, I was about to run about her when I felt a large hand hold me. All right, already filled, filled. I screamed at her mom. No, I was about to run after her when I felt a large hand hold me back. It was a fireman. I hadn't whether noticed that the street that the creeping you don't understand my mother in there the very logically were not get go. I didn't run. He was right. It all right. They will get her said. He wrapped a blanket around me and set me down in our car. Soon after that, the fireman emerged of our house with my mom in tow. I am back after there is 1 hour done. It's a 4 hour. I am studying non-stop. Only I am breaking for some minutes. 1 hour of or half hour was done. Only 1 hour left for my break. I am going to take 5 minutes of break once too. Okay, I'm coming after 5 minutes break.